there's a lot of people with big platforms and have influence and they espouse certain messages. But the person that I wanted to address this evening, which I don't think I've actually ever addressed directly with a full segment before, is Patrick Bet-David. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Valuetainment, let me just say, this is an organization that is basically based on pyramid scheme. It's multi-level marketing. And he has been called out 9 Ways to Sunday online many times before. Now, I've never done that, but what I can tell you about Patrick Bet-David is that he has a podcast that he runs just outside of our congressional district in a suburb of Fort Lauderdale. That's where his show is done. And I reached out to his group to try to get Jen on for an interview when she was running against Wasserman Schultz for Congress. And when I tell you that they did a big song and a dance, and basically it came right down to, are you willing to pay Patrick Bet-David money to have Jen come on the podcast? And what was I'm not going to say how much, but let's just say it's in the thousands of dollars in order to consider having her on. And there was no guarantee either. No, I'm not a sucker, as much as I would have liked to have allowed Jen to get her message out there to more people in South Florida that probably would want to support her against Wasserman Schultz. That didn't end up happening. And then that wasn't the end of it. Then you had his grifters calling me nonstop about, do you want to get involved with this mastermind or that mastermind, like Grant Cardone or Tony Robbins? Same thing. This is what he does. Patrick Bet-David is a grifter, pure and simple. And this is what he had to say regarding Israel and Iran.
Doesn't want an open economy. Saudi doesn't get up and MBS doesn't get up and say death upon America. Screw the infidels. They should die. We should kill them. That's not how they negotiate. So again, I'm not sitting here saying let's go to war. What I'm saying to you is the Middle East would probably be a better place if a different regime was running Iran.
Now, why would a guy say something like that and at the same time out of his mouth talk about how great the regime in Saudi Arabia is? Nobody subjugates women. I'm not saying that Iran is a picnic, because they certainly are not. But no country subjugates women like Saudi Arabia does. But why would he be sucking off Saudi Arabia? Because Saudi Arabia is open for business. That's the reason. Iran is not. Iran is not open for business, not under our terms, which is why I've often said, and I know that there are a lot of people who want out from the Islamic regime that runs Iran. I have no doubt that they do. But under what circumstances? At what cost? That's what people have to ask themselves. Mohammed bin Salman runs Live Golf. This is a transition away from their current structure, which has been nonstop oil for generations. They're trying to refine their message and their image. But remember, everything is all about money and power. It would be one thing if Patrick was being objective in his critique of Iran, but suggesting that Saudi Arabia is a walk in the park. It isn't. It is oil, and oil is money and power. That's what this is about.
And if that was the case, we would be more at peace. It doesn't mean Israel's not going to change being, what's the word? Ambitious. It doesn't mean Israel's going to change being less ambitious and wanting to get their Mossad to lower all this. AIPAC's going to slow down. No, they're going to keep doing their agenda.
And what is their agenda, Patrick Bet-David? Their agenda is genocide. Their agenda is greater Israel. And by any means necessary. Listen to that language again.
Yes. It doesn't mean Israel's going to change being less ambitious and wanting to get their Mossad to lower all this. AIPAC's going to slow down. No, they're going to keep doing their agenda.
Less ambitious. That's the language he uses to describe Israel. Less ambitious. Whew. That's one hell of a way to defend genocide. Patrick's from Iran, by the way.
None of that's going to slow down. But the common denominator here is everybody on the right was happy when Qassem Soleimani, oh my God, that's my leader. That's my president. He's shown strength. But now, no. Why? Because there's Israel derangement syndrome. And guess what? You either have TDS or you have IDS. We have one.
So now it's Trump derangement syndrome or it's Israel derangement syndrome. That's what it is. If anybody has not looked into Patrick Bet-David and how he made his money, I mean, I come from New Jersey, so there was a time where I considered getting a Series 7. There was a time where I considered the prospect of, would it make sense to work for a company like this? Little did I know, but I was in my fairly, I would say early, mid-20s at the time. And there was a company that was similar to Patrick's company. It was called Advocare. Advocare was promoted by Super Bowl winning quarterback Drew Brees. And I'm sure they paid him a lot of money to promote their products. But it's all a pyramid scheme. To the last drop, that's what it is. And that's what he sells. He sells a very aggressive form of insurance. That's what he does. And who does he hire? He hires young, impressionable men trying to make it in the world. Little do people know that only about 2 to 3% of the actual agents that work for his company actually make any real money. The rest of them end up paying out of pocket to work for this guy. That's how he got rich. No secrets here. So is it a stretch that somebody who Valuetainment has a shade under 7 million subscribers? That grift is working beautifully now. It's kind of like when the mafia decides to go legitimate. You make your money, you establish yourself, you don't want to be in the family business anymore. So we change our philosophy. We're no longer going to be doing gambling, liquor, casino, women, things like that. We're going to put our money in legitimate business. And that's basically what he's talking about. We're going to go into legitimate business. His legitimate business is selling all of these wonderful mastermind events, as I said, like Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone sell. Make people pay a lot of money, get a lot of big names to come and speak. They do them all in South Florida because, of course, they do. And you get the big names to show up, including the likes of Tom Brady. That's who comes. And for them, it's, hey, I'm getting paid. You want to hear my story? That's great. Happy to share it. I can't speak for the boss and what the fuck he's doing and what his intentions are. But it's pretty clear that this guy's slick as shit. Slick like grease. Just like in his hair.
One of the two.
Here's my question. So how does this play out to help Iranian people? So they're gonna go in there. They're gonna bomb. They're telling everybody to get out of Tehran, where my mom and dad are from, where your whole family's, where you're from. What I want to know, so kill all. They're already taking out the leadership, which is a great thing. Then you're gonna take out Khomeini. I'm just curious. What is the plan?
What's the end goal? Your question is, what's the end goal?
I love plans. By the way, and I'm not sitting here advocating for Iran or their leadership at all. I'm just curious Israel is doing it. We're gonna get put into it. What is the end game? Now you take out Khomeini, you take out all the nuclear stuff. Okay, then what? Israel's gonna put somebody in, or are they gonna have elections? I don't know what that looks like. That's what I'm curious for. And again, not pro Iran or what's happening over there. I am just anti-United States as a veteran going to war. That's it.
Think about that. And Vinny Oshana is the only person with any redeemable quality on this entire show. I actually like Vinny. And of course, Vinny's coming at it from the perspective of, I served in the military. I know exactly what this shit's all about. The people who are always the loudest and advocating for us to get involved in more endless war, only in this case, it could get a lot worse. Vinny is trying to plant the seed that this message is the wrong message. This is not the road we should be going down. And of course, I agree with him. But the biggest shitbag of all on that fucking channel is about to open his stupid mouth.
Simple.
Let me respond to Vinny. I totally understand where you're coming from.
So let's just set the table here in case you guys don't know who Adam Sosnick is. He comes from the same area that Jen Perlman comes from. He's a spoiled little shit who ended up in a very good career, and he is a full-blown Zionist of the highest order from North Miami Beach. Jewish geography, as Jen would say. Here's a guy who can't wait to put people into harm's way. Does this look like a guy who would know what the fuck to do in basic training, much less in combat?
More than you actually think. Because I think as an American, we look at what we've done over the last couple decades, getting involved in foreign wars, and there's a lot of Americans who are just like, I'm so over this. Afghanistan, Iraq, what we're going on out there. But just because you're over that, it's almost like we're playing scared now. Now we have
we're playing scared now. Here's a guy who would never lift a finger to defend this country, and he's like, what are you all, a bunch of pussies? You're not ready to fight? That's what he's really saying.
$1 trillion military budget. Why are we spending so much money? To let our machinery and defense capabilities rust? Like we're the old Soviet Russian military? In my opinion, a lot of you guys are playing scared and don't recognize what's actually happening in front of your eyes. Not hypothetical, not playing scared. The Iranian regime is teetering and at any point might be eliminated. By the way, the Ayatollah Khamenei is 86 years old, going on to meet his martyr pretty soon.
You know, the one thing about these Zionist Jews that they just can't help themselves with, they wear their bigotry on their fucking face. Like they can't help it. He so much wants to call him a sand. For those of you who know what I'm referring to, you'll understand. But that is what he's trying to imply. Why don't you just call him a go fucker while you're at it? This is also, again, the problem with the Zionists in general. They have an ethnic, cultural, social, and religious superiority about themselves when they view other people. And this guy is no different. In fact, he is the embodiment of what the South Florida Zionist Jew is all about. He really embodies it. Now, the only reason we haven't really talked about it before with Jen, but Jen grew up with guys like this. That's why she's so adamant about being against this movement. Adam Sosnick is that guy, especially in Florida. If you want to know what the face of the Zionist Jew in Florida looks like, that's it. That's him. He's the guy. Total douchebag.
And Israel, this little country that could, has eliminated every terror threat around them. And they're probably looking at Iran and being like, we've taken out their air missile defense capabilities. We've just taken down their nuclear facilities, despite people thinking they don't have nuclear capabilities. And in Israel,
you know, the other thing about this guy that I think doesn't get pointed out enough is that he is such a dumb fuck. Like, he really is. He doesn't even acknowledge the fact that most of Iran's defense systems are underground. He don't want to talk about that. He doesn't want to talk about the type of cluster bombs that would need to be dropped in order to hit those facilities, and that Israel is not capable of doing that with their current arsenal, and that it would require our weaponry to go in there and do it. And the worst part is that he talks like he's smart. He thinks he's intelligent. I would say, AJ, that the two of them compete for that level of ignorance and stupidity. I would agree.
To the point where Iran is now calling Qatar, Saudi, countries around the Middle East, basically saying, please help me. We need your help against Israel.
Israel has Bibi Netanyahu go on national television on several networks saying, please help us, United States. Iran's going to destroy us.
This is the same regime that's talking tough, chanting kill, death to Israel, death to America, death to England, death to the infidels. So
why would they be saying that? Why would they be saying that? Could they be saying that because maybe they don't want fucking nuclear weapons pointed in their direction? This guy oozes such stupid privilege. I'm telling you, for any of you who have not been to Aventura in North Miami, if you don't like Zionists, you wouldn't last very long there. Or Boca Raton, for that matter.
In my opinion, I totally understand why you're frustrated, but if I could go and recreate everything we've done over the last 20 years, I wouldn't be in Afghanistan, I wouldn't be in Iraq, I wouldn't be in Libya, I wouldn't be in Syria, I wouldn't do any of this. I would stay laser focused on the massive problem in the Middle East, and that is the Islamic Republic of Iran, period.
I mean, it's a damn shame we had to kill all those people for the past 20 years, but the real enemy is Iran. That's the real enemy. That's who we have to go fight. Now, don't expect me to go over there and do the fighting. You got to go over there and do it for me. Because I am a fucking pussy motherfucker. That's what I am. Another guy who never properly got his ass kicked. Ever. I don't know how Vinny hasn't pummeled him into the ground. Notice how the veteran or the soldier says this isn't a good idea. And the cuck pussy who wouldn't know how to defend his way out of a wet paper bag says, no, we have to go fight. We need war. More war. And this guy, if you ever read the comment section on this channel, everybody hates his guts. Everybody. Nobody likes him. These are people that watch the channel, that love PBD, that love Vinny, but they fucking hate this guy. They hate him. So why is he on the show? That's what you have to ask yourself. What the fuck does this guy have that we can't see? You know what I think? I think he's connected. I think he's connected to the Israel lobby. I think he brings money into PBD's world and he gets to play around like he's some big shot on a big podcast. That's the trade-off. He brings nothing to the table. Nothing. In fact, he probably hurts the channel in a way that Patrick doesn't necessarily see. But again, it's not for us to decide why this guy is a front and center part of their channel. All I know is that anyone with half a brain, and a lot of them who watch the show have at least that, are saying, why is this guy still on the show? He's just another version of Ben Shapiro. That's what he is. And I'm not saying, as I said before, that this is any type of a channel that's worth going, riding home about. Because as I've said, Patrick Bet-David runs a grifting operation if there ever was one. I almost got Jen and I caught in the crosshairs of it. Thankfully, it didn't happen. As I said, they teased the idea of Jen coming on the podcast, but they wanted money. A lot of money. Yeah, we'll bring her on. Yeah, you don't have a big enough platform. Well, let me tell you something. At the rate our channel is growing right now, maybe in 6 months to a year, they might say, oh, yeah, your channel's big enough now. Now we'll have you on. Life lesson for all of you guys. People who are only interested in talking with you based on the amount of revenue they think they can gin up from you and not the message itself, especially if it's of quality, fuck them. Don't ever give in. Don't ever allow yourself to be in that position. Adam Sosnick is a prime example of somebody who was born on third base and thought he hit a triple. And there's a lot of people out there in that class that think like that. He just happens to be an insufferable bitch, and that's why he acts this way. And don't think he would hesitate for a second to support the genocide, to support endless war, and even world war, as long as he's not fighting it.